Are you ready to master the subtle art of understanding and responding to people? In social intelligence, the art of reading and responding to people, you'll uncover how to navigate conversations with clarity, influence decisions without manipulation, and build trust effortlessly. This audiobook promises practical strategies to decode emotions, interpret body language, and respond in ways that create connection and respect. You'll learn how to recognize hidden motives, mirror communication styles, manage conflicts calmly, and communicate with purpose in every social situation. Each chapter is designed to give actionable insights that you can apply immediately, transforming your daily interactions into opportunities for personal growth, stronger relationships, and professional success. From mastering conversational flow to responding strategically under pressure, every lesson is packed with wisdom and step-by-step guidance. Subscribe now to follow along and start building your social intelligence, turning every encounter into a moment of influence, trust, and meaningful connection. Number 1. Decode emotions through subtle cues. Reading the room is not a trick, it is a discipline. Start by treating every person as an open book whose first page is written without words. The eyes, breath, posture, and tiny facial shifts reveal the weather inside another person long before words arrive. Developing the habit of noticing those signals is a practical skill that changes how conversations go, how conflicts settle, and how trust grows. Approach this skill with curiosity and self-control. Observe first, interpret later, act with purpose. That sequence keeps judgment out of observation and gives power to response. The most reliable starting point is the face. The face moves in small, meaningful ways, a tightening at the mouth that doesn't become a full frown, a brief flash of tension around the eyes, a jaw that settles with a heavy breath. Train your eyes to notice duration and change. A genuine smile reaches the eyes and lasts a fraction longer. A polite smile is often still and thin. Practice watching for micro-movements in short clips of people talking. Pause and rewind. Over time, the pattern recognition builds. Action every day for 5 minutes. Watch a short interview or a public speech without sound. Focus solely on faces. Note 2 things each time: the first micro-expression you see and what change follows it. Voice is the second guide. Tone, pace, and the small intake of breath before speaking reveal emotional load. A steady, lower tone often signals confidence or calm. A high, thin tone can signal anxiety or urgency. Shorter sentences delivered sharply often hide stress. Silence also speaks. If someone delays their answer with a long inhale, they may be buying space to manage emotion. Action. In your next conversation, notice pauses. If a pause appears before a question, count to 3 within your head before answering. That quiet habit trains patience and gives others space to complete their thought. Posture and motion offer context that the face alone cannot. The tilt of a head, the crossing of arms, a forward lean. Each is a wordless sentence. A closed stance paired with rapid speech often means defensiveness. An open stance with slow, measured movements tends to signal receptivity. Small, repetitive movements, finger tapping, foot bouncing, point to agitation or impatience. Action. Use a simple checklist during a meeting. Eyes, breath, face, hands, posture. Scan each person for 30 seconds and record 1 observation. Over time, this checklist becomes automatic and reveals patterns you would otherwise miss. Context saves you from false conclusions. A tired face after a long day is not the same as deep sadness. A sharp tone after bad news differs from aggression. Always ask context questions before attributing motive. Instead of assuming, test gently. That sounded like it was hard. What's happening? Short, neutral probes invite clarity without accusation. Action. Prepare 3 neutral probes you can use in any conversation. Phrases like "What's going on for you right now?" or "I noticed you paused, want to share?" Practice them until they come out calm and steady. Naming emotions is a powerful tool. When a feeling is identified, it loses some of its charge. Use short, accurate labels. "You seem frustrated. You look tired." That sounded like relief. Naming shows attention and often opens a door. Expect corrections. People will refine or deny the label and accept those corrections without defensiveness. This is about connection, not being right. Action in daily interactions. Try one labeled observation. If someone reacts negatively, apologize for the intrusion and ask a clarifying question. That response demonstrates respect and control. Use mirroring carefully. Subtly adopting another person's tempo, posture, or tone fosters rapport when done with care. The safest form of mirroring is tempo. Slow your speech slightly to match a slower speaker, or relax your breathing to sync with someone who is anxious. Avoid exact copying of sensitive gestures. Mirroring should be discreet and intended to create ease, not mimicry. Action. Pick one safe element, breath or speaking speed, and practice matching it for a minute during a low-stakes conversation. Observe whether the person relaxes. Adjust accordingly. Empathy starts with accurate listening. Listening is not waiting for a gap to speak. It is active attention to content and feeling, reflective listening. Repeating back the gist plus an emotion shows comprehension. For example, you're saying the project's timeline feels impossible, and that's exhausting. That short reflection proves attention and diffuses escalation. Action. In the next meeting, use reflective listening twice. Keep the reflection short, then stay silent and let the other person respond. Body cues can betray emotion faster than words. Watch for autonomic signs, pupils widening under surprise, quick shallow breaths in panic, skin flushing with embarrassment. These signals are not moral judgments, they are data. Collect them without assigning value. Then choose a response that preserves dignity. Action. When you notice strong autonomic signals, slow your own breathing and speak with a lowered pace. This creates a physiological counterweight and helps the other person regulate. Calibration beats certainty. Assume a margin of error and test interpretations with gentle questions. When reading subtle cues, it is better to be approximate and corrective than dogmatic and wrong. The Stoic discipline here is to keep equanimity when an interpretation fails. Adjust, learn, move forward. Action. After a difficult interaction, write one sentence about where your interpretation was off. Use that note as a micro-lesson for the next encounter. Practical routines accelerate learning. Create a daily routine of small practices, a 5-minute observation exercise, a 10-minute mirror practice to notice how your own expressions form, and a short journaling habit to log 3 social reads you made and whether they were accurate. Over 4 weeks, that produces a compound effect. Action. Set these practices as non-negotiables. Schedule them like an appointment. Discipline matters more than talent. Ethics and purpose keep skill grounded. Decoding emotions is powerful and can be misused. The Stoic aim is to align this skill with virtue. Use it to reduce harm, increase clarity, and foster growth. Avoid manipulation. If the goal is to influence, aim for mutual benefit. Ask whether your actions preserve the other person's agency. Action. Before acting on an emotional read, run a quick ethical check. Will this action respect the other person's dignity? Will it for honest outcomes? If the answer is no, pause. Real-world application changes how life unfolds. In a negotiation, reading a split-second hesitation can reveal an underlying concern, then addressed to close a deal ethically. In parenting, noticing a child's tightened shoulders before an outburst allows for de-escalation and guidance. In leadership, sensing collective exhaustion through micro-signals prompts a small policy shift that prevents burnout. In customer interactions, picking up on frustration before words escalate transforms complaints into loyalty. Action. Identify one domain: work, family, friendships, and choose one specific micro-signal to watch for in that domain. This week, respond using a prepared neutral phrase. Develop self-mastery alongside social mastery. The Stoic core is control over reaction. Observing another's emotion will often trigger a reflex in you: defensiveness, eagerness to fix, or shame. Name that reflex silently and choose a deliberate response. That tiny gap between stimulus and response is where character grows. Action. When a strong reaction appears during conversation, pause for a single breath. Use that breath to choose between immediate reaction and measured reply. Finally, progress is not dramatic. Improvement shows up in reduced misunderstandings, smoother meetings, and quieter confidence. The practice is cumulative. Measuring progress looks like fewer heated exchanges, faster problem resolution, and clearer trust. Track growth not by perfection, but by direction. Action. Every 2 weeks, review your journal. Note one interaction where reading cues prevented a problem and one where it failed. Celebrate the success, revise tactics for the failure. Consistency forms the muscle. Make observation a default habit rather than a special skill pulled out for big moments. The world rewards those who prepare quietly. Training attention, labeling feelings, testing hypotheses, and acting with ethical restraint turn social intelligence from an aspirational phrase into a daily tool. The result is a steadier presence, a clearer mind, and relationships that rest on truth rather than assumption. Discipline in this practice builds freedom to act with clarity rather than react by instinct. Keep the work simple, keep it steady, and let small gains compound into lasting change. Number 2. Master conversational timing and flow. Timing in conversation is not accidental. It is a skill that transforms ordinary exchanges into meaningful interactions. Every word, pause, and gesture carries weight. Speaking too soon can shut someone down, while waiting too long can create awkward distance. Mastering timing begins with awareness, noticing how your words intersect with the other person's rhythm, how your breathing aligns with theirs, and how silence functions as a tool rather than an absence. The goal is to create a natural flow where ideas and emotions move in harmony, producing understanding and connection. Start by listening with full attention. Real listening is active. It demands that you tune into not only the words being said, but also the pace, intonation, and emphasis. Observe where a person places stress in their sentences, when they inhale and when they pause. These are signals of readiness for the next idea. Interrupting or rushing past them misses the opportunity to respond at the moment that matters most. Action. In every conversation, identify 2 points where you notice natural pauses. Practice waiting an extra second before speaking. That pause allows clarity to form and signals respect for the other person's thought process. Breath and pacing are essential. Your internal rhythm influences your speech. Tempo, rapid speech, can overwhelm, while a measured pace invites reflection. Learning to slow your responses without losing energy is key. Action. Record yourself speaking about a neutral topic for 2 minutes. Listen back. Note whether your words rush past or leave space. Aim to introduce subtle pauses, 1 or 2 seconds, where ideas naturally conclude. Over time, these pauses feel comfortable and enhance comprehension. The art of timing also relies on reading micro-responses. Tiny facial expressions, shifts in posture, and changes in vocal tone indicate receptivity. If someone leans forward, nods, or widens their eyes, the moment is ripe for a continuation or a probing question. If shoulders tighten or hands fold, it may be time to slow down or shift the topic. Action during conversations today. Consciously observe 3 nonverbal signals. Adjust your next sentence based on those observations. Track whether your adaptation improves engagement. Silence is a critical instrument. Too often, silence is feared, filled with discomfort, or interrupted. Yet silence allows people to process, reflect, and respond authentically. It communicates confidence, patience, and understanding. Action. When someone finishes a statement, pause, count silently to 3 before replying. Resist the urge to fill the gap. Notice how the other person's reaction changes when space is given. Transitions matter more than most people realize. Jumping abruptly between topics creates confusion and blocks understanding. Smooth transitions respect the listener's cognitive and emotional processing. Use linking phrases that prepare the other person, building on what you said, or "I want to explore that idea further." These cues signal readiness to shift, maintaining conversational coherence. Action. Choose one conversation today. Use a linking phrase every time you move to a new topic. Notice how it affects engagement and clarity. Questions shape timing naturally. Open-ended questions extend dialogue, while closed-ended questions conclude it. Alternating strategically between these types ensures that conversation flows rather than stalls. Asking before answering is a subtle method of timing mastery. Action. In your next discussion, ask a question before offering your perspective. Observe whether it increases receptivity and gives space for reflection. Emotional cues govern timing just as much as intellectual ones. Frustration, excitement, or uncertainty can disrupt natural flow. Learning to detect these cues allows you to adjust your tempo and choice of words. If excitement runs high, a brief pause can prevent misunderstandings. If uncertainty appears, slowing down allows clarity to emerge. Action. Monitor one emotional signal per conversation. Respond with adjusted pacing or phrasing that meets the emotional tone without overreacting. Storytelling enhances flow when timing is precise. Pausing before key points, emphasizing words that carry weight, and allowing the listener to visualize details produces connection. A story told too quickly loses impact. One that drags loses attention. Timing ensures every moment lands. Action. Pick a short anecdote to share today. Rehearse it mentally, noting where to pause for emphasis. Deliver it naturally, focusing on rhythm, not speed. Adaptability is the cornerstone of conversational flow. Different people, contexts, and moods require unique pacing. A discussion with a colleague about work may demand efficiency, while a conversation with a friend about feelings benefits from longer pauses and reflective statements. Action. Identify the type of interaction before it begins. Adjust your pace and style to fit the expected rhythm. Reflect afterward on what worked and what could improve. Energy management affects timing profoundly. If your energy peaks too early or fades too quickly, flow suffers. Modulating voice, gestures, and attention maintains momentum and ensures that conversation doesn't stall. Action. Before engaging, take a deep breath, ground yourself, and visualize the conversation moving steadily from start to finish. Maintain energy levels by monitoring your posture and breathing throughout. Anticipation, not prediction, guides effective timing. Predicting words leads to interruption or disengagement, while anticipation allows responsive readiness. Watch for patterns: a raised eyebrow before a request, a shifting hand before elaboration. These signals prepare you to respond without taking control away from the speaker. Action. Choose one conversation today to practice anticipation. Observe one predictive cue and prepare a response. Then deliver it in alignment with the speaker's rhythm. Practice repetition without fatigue. Timing is a skill honed through deliberate exercise. Short, consistent sessions improve responsiveness. Begin with low-stakes conversations, casual greetings, brief chats at work or small talk at home. Focus entirely on rhythm responsiveness, ignoring content for now. Action. Commit 5 minutes per day to observing and responding purely to conversational flow. Note improvements weekly. Feedback amplifies growth. Ask trusted friends or colleagues whether your timing feels natural. Often, self-perception differs from external perception. Small adjustments, guided by feedback, compound over time. Action. After one interaction, ask for a single piece of feedback about pacing or responsiveness. Integrate it into your next encounter. Self-regulation ensures timing is effective. Awareness of internal impulses, urgency to speak, desire to dominate, or nervous excitement keeps flow smooth. Stoic practice applies. Notice impulses without surrendering to them. Pause, breathe, and choose deliberate responses. Action. During your next conversation, note each urge to speak immediately. Use a single breath to decide whether to proceed or wait. Clarity complements timing. Even well-paced conversation fails if the content is muddled. Organize thoughts in short, clear segments. Deliver them with pauses that allow absorption. Action. Prepare a 3-point idea before a conversation. Deliver each point slowly, pausing briefly before moving on. Observation outside conversation reinforces mastery. Watch dialogues in movies, interviews, or public talks. Note timing decisions, pauses, pacing, transitions, and how they affect engagement. Translate observations into practice in your own conversations. Action. Select a 5-minute clip. Observe 3 timing decisions and replicate one in your next real conversation. The ultimate reward of mastering timing and flow is influence without force. People respond naturally to those who speak at the right moment and respect their rhythm. Relationships deepen, conflict reduces, and clarity increases. Timing becomes a quiet authority, a form of presence that communicates competence, empathy, and respect simultaneously. Action. At the end of each day, reflect on one moment where timing made a difference. Journal what worked and how it shaped the interaction. Consistency transforms skill into instinct. Over months, attentive listening, breath control, strategic pauses, and reflective pacing become second nature. Conversations feel effortless because preparation meets habitual awareness. The result is communication that inspires confidence, fosters understanding, and nurtures genuine connection. Action. Commit to 30 days of deliberate practice. Each day, focus on one element of timing, pause, pacing, question, or transition, and build mastery gradually. Timing in conversation is not merely speaking at the right moment. It is creating space for thought, understanding, and connection. It is the balance between action and restraint, between attention and expression. Every pause, every rhythm, every measured response is a tool for influence, clarity, and trust. Mastering it requires awareness, observation, patience, and discipline. Those who invest in this skill cultivate not just better conversations, but a steadier mind, stronger relationships, and a presence that commands respect naturally. Consistency, reflection, and ethical use of timing turn ordinary words into instruments of meaningful connection. This practice, grounded in discipline and observation, transforms conversations into spaces where understanding flows and mutual growth becomes inevitable. Number 3. Recognize hidden motives efficiently. Understanding what drives people beneath the surface is not a matter of guesswork. It is a skill that combines observation, reasoning, and patience. Hidden motives are rarely stated outright. They live in hesitation, choice of words, body tension, and subtle behavioral patterns repeated over time. The first step toward recognizing them efficiently is to quiet assumptions and sharpen attention. Treat every interaction as a puzzle waiting to be solved with clarity and restraint. Suspicion alone creates bias, while disciplined curiosity allows insight to emerge naturally. Begin with the context surrounding the person. Actions rarely occur in isolation. What pressures exist in their environment? What past interactions might shape behavior today? Understanding external factors helps distinguish genuine intent from reflex or habit. Action. Before judging a statement or action, pause and ask, what might be influencing this choice? Observe patterns over time instead of reacting to single events. Listening carefully is essential. Words contain clues about priorities, fears, and desires. Pay attention to what is emphasized and what is omitted. People often reveal their priorities unintentionally by repeating certain themes, bringing up the same concerns, or framing situations consistently in a particular way. Action. During conversations, jot down recurring topics or phrases. Over days, these recurring elements become strong indicators of underlying motivation. Observe behavior under stress. Stress magnifies hidden motives because instinct drives action when control diminishes. Notice where energy goes when stakes rise. Does someone withdraw, push harder, or attempt to charm? Patterns under pressure reveal priorities and insecurities more clearly than polished behavior in calm conditions. Action. Track one situation this week where someone faced pressure. Note their reactions carefully. Compare these with responses in low-stress moments to identify genuine motivators. Questions matter, but the framing is crucial. Direct interrogation often triggers defensiveness, masking true intent. Instead, use indirect or reflective questions that allow people to reveal motives voluntarily. Ask what outcomes matter most to them, what challenges they see, or how they define success. The way they respond carries more insight than the explicit words. Action. Prepare 3 neutral, open-ended questions for upcoming interactions. Focus on listening to subtleties, tone, and consistency rather than rushing to judgment. Consistency and contradiction are powerful signals. People's motives often shine through when their words and actions misalign. A promise that is repeated verbally but consistently unfulfilled suggests hidden priorities elsewhere. Conversely, repeated alignment between statements and action indicates clarity of intent. Action. Keep a brief record of commitments and follow through in one interaction or project. Over time, patterns reveal what drives each person. Body language communicates more than words ever can. Posture, gestures, eye movement, and micro-expressions betray underlying concerns or ambitions. Someone who claims enthusiasm but frequently avoids eye contact or shifts weight may hold reservations or hidden objectives. Tiny, repeated movements, tapping fingers, fidgeting, pacing signal stress, impatience, or hidden agendas. Action. During a conversation, pick one non-verbal element to monitor. Note changes across the discussion and correlate with what is said verbally. Energy and emphasis indicate priorities. The intensity with which someone talks about topics signals what matters most to them. Topics glossed over quickly may be secondary or strategic, while repeated emphasis suggests importance. Observing energy allocation helps separate surface-level communication from deeper intent. Action. In meetings or discussions, mentally highlight the topic areas where the person invests most attention and passion. Compare these to the outcomes they advocate. Social patterns and relationships are equally revealing. Who someone aligns with, who they avoid, and who they seek guidance from often reflect hidden objectives. The network of influence around a person tells a story about what they value, fear, or hope to achieve. Action. Map one social interaction network in your workplace or community. Identify which connections receive attention and resources. Analyze how that aligns with stated goals versus likely motives. Observe reaction to influence. People reveal motives by how they respond to persuasion or requests. Resistance, eagerness, deflection, or selective compliance provides insight into priorities and hidden agendas. The key is to watch the subtle, immediate response, not just the final outcome. Action. During the next negotiation or request, note micro-reactions, gestures, facial expressions, timing, and correlate them with stated reasons. Emotional leakage is subtle but consistent. Hidden motives often emerge through unintentional emotional responses. A flicker of frustration, a tense breath, a slight smirk, or a fleeting glance. These micro-moments are like a window into intent when observed with patience. Action. Focus on one interaction today. Observe the micro-emotional shifts during key statements. Make neutral mental notes about the possible hidden priorities they suggest. Pattern recognition is critical. One isolated action rarely reveals hidden intent. Repeated actions over time provide clarity. Keep track of choices, language, and behaviors across multiple interactions. Trends emerge that disclose genuine priorities, desires, and fears. Action. Create a simple log for interactions across a week. Record actions, words, and context. At week's end, highlight recurring behaviors that indicate underlying motives. Avoid assumptions and moral judgment. Efficiency in recognizing motives comes from objective observation, not criticism. Treat the data as neutral. The purpose is understanding, not labeling. Assumptions cloud judgment and reduce accuracy. Action. After noting behaviors and statements, explicitly write "no judgment" beside observations. This reinforces impartiality and clarity. Self-control enhances insight. When recognizing hidden motives, immediate reaction to perceived agendas can sabotage understanding. Stay calm, patient, and measured. The gap between observation and response is where clarity grows. Action. During the next challenging conversation, count to 5 silently before responding to statements that trigger assumptions about hidden motives. Reflection consolidates learning. After interactions, review observations and compare them with outcomes. Did the behavior predict action? Were initial interpretations accurate? Reflection sharpens pattern recognition and builds confidence in reading motives efficiently. Action. At day's end, write a short summary of 2 interactions, noting what you believed motivated behavior and what the result revealed. Adjust interpretations for future encounters. Practice ethical application. Recognizing hidden motives is not a tool for manipulation. It is a tool for clarity, influence with integrity, and effective communication. Use insight to guide understanding, support solutions, and strengthen relationships. Action. Before acting on a discovered motive, ask, does this promote honesty and respect, or merely advantage me? Act only if it aligns with integrity. Observe language subtleties. Choice of words, qualifiers, and hesitations provide insight into priorities. Words like should, have to, or wish indicate obligations or desires, while qualifiers like maybe or probably signal uncertainty. These linguistic markers offer clues to underlying intent. Action. During a discussion, note one recurring word pattern and consider what it reveals about the person's internal priorities. Situational triggers expose motives efficiently. People often reveal priorities when faced with specific challenges or opportunities. Observe how reactions vary when stakes change. Stress tests, opportunities for gain, or moral dilemmas illuminate motives more clearly than routine interactions. Action. Pay attention to one situation this week where someone faced a decision under pressure. Record the behavior, compare it to previous patterns, and infer motives. Consistency between private and public behavior is revealing. Hidden motives become clearer when discrepancies between what someone shows publicly and what they do privately are observed. Alignments indicate transparent priorities. Discrepancies highlight concealed agendas. Action. Monitor one context where behavior shifts between public and private settings. Note the differences without jumping to conclusions. Efficiency comes from integrating observation into daily life. Recognizing hidden motives is not an occasional skill, it is continuous. Turn attention into habit. Notice patterns in conversations, meetings, and casual exchanges. Action. Dedicate 10 minutes at the end of each day to reviewing interactions for motive patterns. Over weeks, efficiency and recognition becomes second nature. Patience compounds accuracy. Hidden motives often take time to emerge. Resist the temptation to conclude too quickly. Continuous observation, reflection, and ethical application yield a deep understanding. Action. Commit to observing a single person over multiple interactions this month. Track behavior and note changes or consistencies. Recognizing hidden motives strengthens decision-making. By understanding underlying drivers, you anticipate reactions, navigate negotiations, and foster trust. Insight into motives allows actions to be deliberate, measured, and aligned with ethical standards. This discipline reduces misunderstandings and enhances relational and professional effectiveness. Action. In your next critical decision, review observed motives of involved parties. Adjust approach to maximize clarity, fairness, and efficiency. The practice of reading hidden motives efficiently transforms relationships. Observation, reflection, ethical alignment, and patience create clarity where assumptions once ruled. Over time, this skill produces steadier judgment, better influence, and interactions grounded in awareness, rather than impulse. Each carefully noted action, every observed pattern, and every disciplined reflection compounds into mastery. The result is a presence that understands without intrusion, guides without force, and navigates social complexity with precision, integrity, and calm. Number 4. Adapt behavior to audience reactions. Interacting with people is not a one-size-fits-all activity. Each individual brings a unique perspective, mood, and set of expectations to every conversation. The key to effective communication lies not just in what is said, but in how you respond to the signals others provide. Adapting behavior to audience reactions is about observing attentively, interpreting accurately, and responding intentionally. It is a skill that requires patience, self-awareness, and an understanding that every interaction is dynamic. Begin by paying close attention to subtle cues. People communicate far more through tone, expression, posture, and gestures than through words alone. A slight frown, a pause before responding, or crossed arms can indicate discomfort, confusion, or resistance. Conversely, leaning forward, nodding, or consistent eye contact signals engagement and receptivity. Observing these signals in real time gives you the opportunity to adjust your delivery to match the audience's state. Action. In your next conversation, identify 3 non-verbal cues that indicate how the person is feeling. Allow those cues to guide your next statement or question. Active listening is foundational to adaptation. Listening is more than hearing words. It is absorbing intent, emotion, and emphasis. When someone expresses hesitation, rushing ahead may create tension. When excitement or enthusiasm appears, a measured pause can allow them to fully convey their point. Action. Focus on the rhythm of the other person's speech. Notice when they accelerate or decelerate, and adjust your pace to align with theirs without losing clarity. Flexibility in tone is crucial. Adjusting the volume, speed, and energy of your speech to suit the audience ensures your message is both heard and received. High-energy conversations require a controlled response that matches enthusiasm without overwhelming, while calm discussions demand slower, deliberate articulation to maintain comprehension. Action. Choose a conversation and consciously modify your vocal energy. Observe how different levels of intensity affect the listener's engagement and adjust accordingly. Choice of language matters. Some people respond better to precise, factual language. Others connect through stories or analogies. Observing which style resonates allows you to adapt content for comprehension and impact. Action. During your next interaction, experiment with framing the same point in 2 ways, one analytical and one illustrative. Note which style prompts stronger engagement and understanding. Timing and responsiveness reinforce adaptation. A pause before responding to a question can signal thoughtfulness, while immediate acknowledgement demonstrates attentiveness. Observing audience reaction to your timing allows you to calibrate responses to sustain engagement and respect the flow of conversation. Action. Practice strategic pauses in your next discussion. Watch whether people respond more openly or withdraw. Use that feedback to refine your timing. Emotion mirrors comprehension. Audience reactions often reflect both understanding and emotional state. If someone seems confused, repeating or clarifying is more effective than moving forward. If someone appears inspired or excited, allowing space for expression reinforces connection. Action. Track emotional indicators during a meeting or conversation. Adjust the depth or pace of your explanation according to the emotions displayed. Physical presence plays a role in adaptation. Posture, gestures, and movement convey confidence, openness, and attentiveness. Mirroring subtle gestures without mimicry creates comfort and connection. Maintaining open body language encourages receptivity, while closed gestures can hinder engagement. Action. Choose one physical cue to mirror discreetly, such as leaning forward or adjusting hand placement. Observe whether the audience responds with increased attention or relaxation. Adaptation also requires reading context and environment. A discussion in a professional setting demands a different approach than one with friends or family. Cultural norms, social hierarchies, and situational stakes all influence how your behavior should shift. Awareness of these variables ensures appropriate and effective responses. Action. Before engaging, evaluate the setting, relationships, and stakes. Determine one adjustment you can make to suit the environment, whether in tone, phrasing, or energy. Feedback is instantaneous and continuous. People provide signals constantly: verbal affirmations, facial microexpressions, and shifts in posture. Ignoring these cues reduces the effectiveness of communication, while responding to them reinforces understanding and trust. Action. During a conversation, identify one recurring signal and experiment with a corresponding adjustment in your delivery. Track the effect on the audience's engagement and comprehension. Anticipation complements observation. Recognizing potential reactions before they occur allows proactive adaptation. Anticipation comes from understanding patterns of behavior, preferences, and prior responses. Action. Recall a recent interaction and note one moment where anticipating the audience's reaction could have improved the outcome. Apply this insight to future interactions by preparing flexible responses. Empathy enhances adaptive behavior. Understanding the audience's emotional state and perspective allows you to respond in ways that validate feelings while guiding the conversation productively. Empathy creates alignment between intention and perception, reducing friction and increasing cooperation. Action. During the next discussion, identify one emotional undercurrent and frame your response to acknowledge it explicitly, fostering trust and rapport. Adapting to audience reactions requires patience and composure. Sudden shifts in mood or disagreement may trigger instinctive responses, but maintaining calm and adjusting intentionally communicates maturity and presence. Stoic discipline, observing without immediate reaction, strengthens the ability to respond appropriately. Action. When confronted with unexpected resistance, take a deep breath and identify one adjustment, tone, wording, or approach before speaking. Incremental adjustments compound into mastery. Small, consistent modifications based on feedback, verbal or nonverbal, build a more intuitive ability to align with others. Over time, adaptation becomes natural, enhancing influence, clarity, and connection. Action. After each interaction, note one adaptation you made and its effect. Review weekly to identify progress and areas for refinement. Adaptation extends to managing energy and pacing. Rapid-fire delivery may overwhelm a thoughtful audience, while slow pacing may disengage a fast-moving group. Recognizing energy dynamics allows you to synchronize with the collective rhythm, creating flow and receptivity. Action. Observe the group's collective energy during your next discussion. Adjust the pace of speech, volume, and engagement style to match without losing clarity. Behavioral flexibility also involves adjusting content length and depth. When the audience seems impatient or distracted, brevity ensures the core message lands. When curiosity or interest is high, expanded explanations deepen understanding. Action. Monitor attention levels and adjust your level of detail accordingly. Note which approach produces the best comprehension and engagement. Strategic repetition supports adaptation. Reinforcing key points without redundancy helps align understanding and counters misinterpretation. Observing where repetition is needed and tailoring it to audience response strengthens clarity. Action. Identify one critical point in your conversation. Repeat it in a slightly different form, observing whether comprehension improves. Adapting behavior includes listening for verbal feedback. Phrases like "I see," "that makes sense," or questions for clarification indicate processing. Adjusting based on these cues, either by elaborating, confirming, or shifting, keeps communication effective. Action. Track verbal acknowledgement patterns. When they decrease, adjust your approach to regain engagement. Adaptation requires ethical grounding. Adjusting behavior to audience reactions should foster understanding and respect, not manipulation. The purpose is alignment, not control. Action. Before modifying your approach, ensure it serves mutual clarity and respect. Avoid adjustments designed purely for personal gain at the expense of honesty. Observation outside direct interactions enhances skill. Watching group discussions, interviews, or presentations provides examples of effective adaptation in real time. Noting how speakers respond to audience cues reinforces practical strategies. Action: spend 10 minutes observing a dialogue and note 3 adaptation techniques used successfully. Integrate one into your next conversation. Reflection consolidates learning. After conversations, review how audience signals were interpreted and which adaptations were effective. Continuous assessment strengthens intuition and responsiveness. Action: journal one conversation daily, noting one successful adaptation and one area for improvement. Over time, this creates a personalized guide for dynamic interaction. Adapting behavior to audience reactions is not about changing who you are. It is about calibrating delivery, energy, and timing to ensure the message is received accurately. Observation, empathy, flexibility, and ethical application transform ordinary interactions into effective and meaningful communication. With patience, reflection, and disciplined practice, responding to others in real time becomes second nature. The result is clarity, trust, and connection that deepens relationships and enhances influence. Daily attention to these skills compounds into mastery, producing interactions that feel effortless, natural, and impactful. Every subtle adjustment contributes to a presence that listens deeply, responds wisely, and navigates social dynamics with precision and integrity. Number 5. Build trust with precise responses. Trust is not granted automatically. It is earned through consistent actions, clear communication, and intentional behavior. One of the most effective ways to cultivate trust is through precise responses. Precision communicates understanding, reliability, and respect for the other person's perspective. It shows that attention has been given, that assumptions have been checked, and that the speaker is not merely reacting, but engaging thoughtfully. Building trust begins with the decision to be deliberate in every exchange, to align words with observation, and to provide responses that are neither vague nor misleading. Clarity is the foundation of precision. Vague answers erode confidence and invite doubt. When responding, ensure that your words accurately reflect your knowledge, intentions, and understanding. Avoid filler language, overgeneralizations, or hedging unnecessarily. Action: during your next conversation, commit to giving one answer in each exchange that is specific and actionable. Observe whether the listener shows greater engagement or relief when ambiguity is removed. Listening precedes precision. It is impossible to respond accurately without fully understanding the question or concern. Active listening involves not only hearing words, but recognizing emphasis, emotional undertones, and implied concerns. Every response should be grounded in what the other person communicates, rather than assumptions or projections. Action: in your next discussion, repeat a summary of what you heard before responding. Ensure your answer addresses that summary directly. Timing reinforces trust. Immediate responses are not always precise. Pausing to consider information, phrasing, and emotional impact demonstrates thoughtfulness. It communicates that you value accuracy over speed and that your intent is reliability rather than expedience. Action: when asked a question requiring judgment, pause briefly before answering. Use that moment to organize thoughts and ensure alignment with truth and intent. Confidence supports trustworthiness. When a response is precise, delivering it confidently, without arrogance or hesitation, strengthens credibility. Confidence signals that you understand and have evaluated the information carefully. Avoid overconfidence. Precision paired with humility is more compelling than certainty without substance. Action. Prepare to answer one anticipated question in a meeting or discussion. Speak clearly using measured tone and maintain composure to reinforce reliability. Tailoring responses to context enhances trust. Different situations require different levels of detail, directness, and formality. Adapting the precision of your answer to fit the context ensures the message is received correctly and maintains credibility. Action. Before responding in a professional or personal context, consider the listener's knowledge level and expectations. Adjust your answer to be clear, relevant, and appropriate for that setting. Consistency strengthens trust over time. Accurate responses must be reliable across interactions. A pattern of precise, thoughtful communication builds confidence that future interactions will maintain the same standard. Conversely, inconsistent or careless replies weaken perceived reliability. Action. Track your answers over a week, noting instances of vagueness or misalignment. Reflect on improvements and commit to consistency in future interactions. Honesty underpins every precise response. Truthful communication, even when inconvenient or uncomfortable, reinforces integrity. Trust grows when people know that your responses are accurate and unembellished. Avoid exaggeration, selective omission, or distortion, as even small deviations erode credibility. Action. Examine each response before speaking. Ask if it fully and truthfully represents your understanding or position. Adjust as needed. Anticipating needs allows for proactive precision. Observing the audience and predicting potential questions or concerns enables responses that are thorough, clear, and preemptive. Anticipation communicates attentiveness and care, which enhances trust. Action. Prior to a discussion, consider two potential concerns the other person may have. Prepare responses that are clear, concise, and directly address those points. Language choice affects perceived precision. Words that are specific, concrete, and unambiguous communicate clarity and thoughtfulness. Avoid generalized terms that can be interpreted in multiple ways. Action. When formulating a response, replace vague words with specific examples, numbers, or concrete descriptions to reinforce understanding and credibility. Active verification ensures responses are accurate. Asking clarifying questions before responding prevents misunderstanding and demonstrates diligence. Verification communicates that you are committed to delivering an answer that is relevant and correct. Action. When confronted with ambiguity or incomplete information, ask a brief clarifying question. Then provide a response that incorporates the new context accurately. Listening for emotional subtext enhances precision. A person may ask a question, but the underlying concern could be different. Responding to the subtext while addressing the explicit question demonstrates insight and attentiveness. Action during interactions. Identify one statement where emotion differs from the literal question. Address both the literal and underlying concern in your answer. Observe the effect on trust and engagement. Feedback loops improve precision. Observing how the audience reacts to your response provides information for adjustment and refinement. Correcting misunderstandings promptly and clearly reinforces reliability. Action. After providing an answer, watch for signs of confusion or hesitation. Clarify or rephrase immediately, demonstrating responsiveness and accuracy. Adapting tone and delivery strengthens the impact of precise responses. Even accurate information can fail to build trust if delivered dismissively, aggressively, or hesitantly. Tone should match intent, calm, composed, and respectful. Action. Practice delivering one prepared answer using varied tones. Notice which tone conveys clarity and builds trust most effectively. Avoid over-explaining. which can undermine trust. Precision does not require unnecessary elaboration. Excessive detail may confuse or dilute the main point, making the response seem less authoritative. Action: after drafting an answer mentally, reduce it by 20–30% while maintaining completeness. Deliver this refined version for maximum clarity. Integrating examples or evidence enhances credibility. Supporting a response with concrete examples, references, or factual evidence increases confidence in your answer. Action: identify one instance in your next conversation where you can include a specific example to reinforce your point. Ensure it aligns with the question and strengthens trust. Self-regulation ensures measured responses. Emotional reactions often distort communication, reducing precision. Maintaining composure allows observation, careful thought, and accurate expression. Stoic discipline supports this, providing the gap between stimulus and response, where accuracy is cultivated. Action: when faced with provocative or emotionally charged questions, take a breath, observe internal reactions, and respond deliberately and calmly. Active engagement signals attentiveness. When responses reflect attention to detail, observation, and understanding, trust increases. Avoid generic or rote replies. Action: in your next discussion, summarize the key points made by the other person before responding. This demonstrates engagement and validates their perspective. Precision in communication reinforces reliability. When people consistently receive clear, accurate, and thoughtful answers, confidence in your intentions grows. This reliability extends beyond immediate interactions, building long-term credibility and strengthening relationships. Action: review past conversations and note instances where your responses were vague or unclear. Commit to improved clarity in similar future situations. Ethical alignment underlies effective trust building. Precision must serve understanding, fairness, and transparency. Using accurate communication to manipulate or mislead erodes credibility permanently. Action: before providing a response, ask whether the answer promotes clarity, fairness, and mutual benefit. Only proceed if the response aligns with integrity. Observation refines responsiveness. Continuous attention to reactions, body language, and engagement cues enables ongoing adjustment, ensuring that precision is maintained in real time. Action: during your next conversation, monitor 3 subtle cues: eye contact, posture, or tone, and adjust phrasing or timing accordingly. Documenting insights accelerates mastery. Journaling about responses, outcomes, and audience reactions builds a personalized guide to effective communication. Over time, this record highlights patterns of what builds trust and what undermines it. Action: after each interaction, note one precise response that increased engagement and one that could have been improved. Use these observations to refine your approach. Building trust with precise responses is a discipline grounded in clarity, attentiveness, and ethical application. Every word matters. Every pause, every phrase, every choice to clarify rather than assume communicates reliability. Practiced consistently, precision transforms ordinary interactions into foundations for confidence, understanding, and lasting relationships. Through clarity, observation, responsiveness, and ethical consideration, trust becomes tangible and enduring. Mastery of precise responses is not just a communication skill, it is a pathway to influence, respect, and meaningful connection that deepens over time, cultivating reliability that others experience and value in every exchange. Number 6. Interpret body language accurately always. Body language is the silent voice that speaks louder than words. Every gesture, posture, and facial expression conveys information often more honest than speech. Learning to interpret it accurately is not an innate skill, but a disciplined practice requiring patience, observation, and continuous refinement. People communicate constantly through subtle cues, the way they shift in their chair, the tension in their hands, or the angle of their head. Mastery comes from combining careful attention with context, allowing insight into intent, emotion, and focus without making assumptions. Start with the basics. Posture. How someone carries their body communicates confidence, defensiveness, or openness. A straight, relaxed posture conveys composure and readiness to engage, whereas slouched or rigid positions may indicate fatigue, discomfort, or tension. Observing posture consistently provides a baseline for understanding deviations. Action. During your next conversation, note the natural posture of the person at rest, and watch for any changes when the topic shifts. Recognize the correlation between movement and emotional or mental states. Facial expressions are perhaps the most revealing element of body language. Micro-expressions, those fleeting involuntary movements, reveal genuine feelings often hidden behind conscious control. The eyes, eyebrows, lips, and forehead form a landscape of emotion that, when read correctly, provides immediate insight. A brief narrowing of the eyes can indicate suspicion, while a slight lift of the corners of the mouth may suggest hidden satisfaction or amusement. Action. Spend 5 minutes observing people in public settings, noting micro-expressions and hypothesizing the emotions they reveal. Compare your observations with verbal context to refine accuracy. Gestures add layers to spoken communication. Hand movements, subtle tilts of the head, and shifts in weight reinforce or contradict words. Crossed arms may signal defensiveness or discomfort, but context matters. If someone is cold, crossing arms may be practical rather than emotional. Action. In your next interaction, track one repeated gesture and note when it appears in relation to certain topics or questions. Correlate the gesture with context to interpret intent correctly. Eye contact is a cornerstone of accurate interpretation. The direction, duration, and intensity of gaze convey engagement, avoidance, or deception. Consistent eye contact shows confidence and interest, while avoidance or excessive blinking may indicate discomfort, anxiety, or evasiveness. Action. During a meeting or conversation, observe eye movement patterns. Identify where gaze aligns with comfort, stress, or attention, and adjust your responses accordingly. Movement and pacing are equally significant. Rapid, restless motions suggest agitation or impatience. Slow, deliberate movements often indicate thoughtfulness or caution. Foot tapping, finger drumming, and shifting weight can reveal underlying stress or excitement. Action. Observe these motions in 2 interactions today. Note whether timing and intensity align with the verbal content and emotional context. Use these observations to anticipate responses and manage conversation flow. Proximity and spatial behavior communicate boundaries and intent. People unconsciously regulate personal space based on comfort, trust, and social norms. Leaning closer can signal interest or intimacy, while stepping back may indicate discomfort or disagreement. Recognizing these spatial cues allows for responsive and considerate engagement. Action. In your next discussion, monitor shifts in personal space. Adapt your own positioning to respect boundaries and maintain comfort. Clusters of signals provide stronger insight than isolated cues. One gesture or expression rarely tells the full story. Accuracy improves when multiple body language indicators converge to suggest a consistent emotional or mental state. Action. Identify one conversation this week where you observe at least 3 cues, facial, posture, and hand movements, aligning to reveal a hidden emotion. Note the outcome to confirm your interpretation. Context ensures interpretation remains accurate. Similar movements can mean different things depending on the environment, relationship, and topic. A clenched fist during exercise or sports may not indicate anger, whereas the same gesture in a tense discussion does. Action: always assess surrounding factors before concluding the meaning of any movement. Keep mental notes on context to enhance precision. Mirror neurons inform subtle perception. People tend to react to body language instinctively. Being aware of your own movements helps prevent misreading cues due to projection. Maintain neutrality and observe without imposing your own emotional states onto others. Action: before interpreting signals, check your own posture, facial expressions and gestures. Ensure that personal bias or tension does not cloud observation. Consistency over time builds interpretive reliability. Observing repeated patterns in behavior provides insight into character, preferences, and probable reactions. One-off signals may be situational anomalies, but trends reveal deeper truths. Action: track repeated body language behaviors of a colleague, friend, or family member over several days. Note correlations with emotional states and conversational topics to develop predictive understanding. Breath and voice nuances amplify interpretation. A shallow, rapid breath often accompanies stress or excitement, while deep, measured breathing signals calm or confidence. Tone and pitch interact with posture and gesture to reinforce or contradict verbal communication. Action: observe the interplay of voice, breathing, and body movement during one conversation. Note the alignment or disparity and adjust your responses accordingly. Touch, when appropriate, communicates reassurance or affirmation. Light gestures, like a handshake or a supportive tap, convey intent and emotion beyond words. Misreading the response to touch, however, can create discomfort. Action: notice reactions to light, socially acceptable gestures. Record subtle physical responses to refine understanding of comfort zones. Observation in groups enhances accuracy. People behave differently in crowds versus one-on-one interactions. Group dynamics influence posture, gaze, and movement. Reading body language in a collective context requires awareness of both individual cues and group interactions. Action: attend a meeting or social gathering. Observe how individual body language shifts in response to group behavior. Identify patterns that signal influence, discomfort, or engagement. Emotion often drives movement unconsciously. Recognizing stress, excitement, or hesitation through physical cues enables proactive adjustment of your behavior to maintain clarity, respect, and rapport. Action: when you detect tension or excitement in body language, respond with measured tone, controlled gestures, and neutral posture to stabilize the interaction. Practice interpretation incrementally. Begin with one element, such as posture or facial expression, and focus on reading it accurately. Add complexity gradually: gestures, eye movement, proximity, layering, understanding, until interpretation becomes second nature. Action: dedicate 10 minutes daily to observing a single element, then expand to integrating 3 cues simultaneously. Track accuracy and refine over time. Documentation aids mastery. Recording observations, patterns, and outcomes sharpens the skill. Journaling key body language cues alongside verbal context provides a reference for improving accuracy. Action: after each interaction, note 2 or 3 body language indicators, the context and the inferred emotional state. Review weekly to identify trends and refine interpretations. Self-regulation is essential. Interpreting body language accurately requires control over impulsive reactions. Immediate judgment can lead to misinterpretation and miscommunication. Stoic practice observing without reacting creates space for analysis and deliberate response. Action. When noticing a strong non-verbal cue, pause before reacting. Use the pause to assess context, history, and probable meaning. Ethics guides application. Accurate reading of body language should support understanding, empathy, and ethical decision-making. Using insight to manipulate or deceive erodes trust and integrity. Action. Ensure that any interpretation of body language informs constructive action rather than exploitation. Cross-referencing verbal and non-verbal cues increases reliability. Discrepancies between words and gestures often reveal hidden emotions or intent. Paying attention to alignment or misalignment allows for deeper insight. Action. During the next conversation, note any divergence between spoken words and physical cues. Reflect on potential underlying emotions and adjust your approach appropriately. Observation in varied contexts strengthens skill. People behave differently in professional, social, and casual settings. Exposure to diverse environments builds flexibility in interpretation. Action. Observe body language in at least 2 different contexts daily. Compare signals across environments to understand consistent versus situational behaviors. Adaptation is integral to application. Accurate interpretation should guide subtle adjustments in your own behavior, tone, gestures, posture, to foster understanding, comfort, and rapport. Action. After reading cues, adjust one element of your own body language to align with or respond to the audience. Observe changes in engagement or comfort. Continuous reflection consolidates mastery. Review each interaction, noting successes and misreads. Accuracy improves when lessons from past observations inform future interpretations. Action. Journal daily, identifying one accurate reading and one misinterpretation. Use insights to refine observation skills systematically. Mastering the interpretation of body language creates a powerful advantage in social intelligence. It allows anticipation of reactions, deeper empathy, and more effective communication. Through disciplined observation, reflection, ethical application, and consistent practice, nonverbal signals become a reliable guide to understanding intent and emotion. Accuracy transforms interactions, strengthens relationships, and builds presence. With patience, focus, and methodical attention, reading body language becomes a refined skill that enhances clarity, influence, and connection in every encounter, allowing insight without intrusion and comprehension without guesswork. Number 7. Influence decisions through empathetic listening. Influence is not about force, persuasion, or manipulation. True influence flows from understanding, connection, and empathy. Empathetic listening transforms ordinary interactions into opportunities to guide decisions, because it creates trust, demonstrates respect, and uncovers underlying priorities. Listening with empathy means focusing entirely on the speaker, not preparing a reply or judging prematurely. It is about absorbing the words, the emotion behind them, and the unspoken concerns that shape perspectives. When people feel genuinely heard, their resistance diminishes, clarity emerges, and openness to guidance naturally increases. Start by giving full attention. Remove distractions, maintain eye contact, and orient your body toward the speaker. This signals presence and attentiveness without the need for words. A quiet, attentive presence allows the other person to express themselves fully. Action. In your next conversation, dedicate the first 2 minutes to listening without interruption. Observe the shift in engagement when they feel fully acknowledged. Empathy requires more than hearing, it requires sensing. Focus on the emotional undertone behind statements. Tone, pacing, and hesitation reveal uncertainty, hope, or hesitation. Recognizing these emotions enables responses that address both the spoken and unspoken needs. Action. Note one emotional signal during a conversation. Frame your next statement to acknowledge that feeling before offering guidance or suggestions. Paraphrasing demonstrates understanding. Summarizing key points in your own words signals that you have not only listened but also grasped the core concerns. This step builds confidence and encourages further disclosure. Action. After a person shares an idea or concern, repeat it concisely, highlighting understanding of both content and sentiment. Notice how this encourages openness. Questions are a bridge to influence. Asking thoughtful, open-ended questions deepens comprehension and shows respect for the speaker's perspective. Questions that explore motivations, priorities, and concerns uncover insights critical to guiding decisions. Action. Prepare 3 open-ended questions in a conversation. Use the answers to shape a response that aligns with their values, while subtly guiding toward constructive solutions. Acknowledging and validating feelings creates receptivity. People are more likely to consider suggestions when they feel understood. Validation does not mean agreement. It simply recognizes their perspective as legitimate. Action. Respond to an expressed concern with acknowledgement. For example, I see why this is challenging for you, before presenting alternative options or recommendations. Patience amplifies influence. Empathetic listening requires restraint. Interrupting, rushing, or pushing for immediate conclusions disrupts trust and reduces openness. Allowing pauses, silence, and reflection gives the speaker room to fully express themselves. Action. Practice strategic pauses in your next discussion, letting the speaker finish and reflect before responding. Note the difference in engagement and willingness to consider your input. Tailoring responses to expressed values strengthens guidance. Influence is most effective when suggestions align with the speaker's priorities, goals, and beliefs. Observing what matters most allows for responses that resonate authentically. Action. During a conversation, identify one priority expressed by the speaker. Frame your response or recommendation to directly connect with that priority. Storytelling fosters connection. Sharing relevant experiences or examples in response to the speaker's concerns illustrates possibilities without imposing authority. Stories bridge understanding, making guidance relatable and credible. Action. Choose one story that mirrors the speaker's situation. Present it briefly, highlighting lessons or insights without overshadowing their perspective. Tone and delivery matter. Gentle, measured, and sincere communication enhances receptivity. A harsh or rushed tone, even with valuable insight, can provoke defensiveness. Action. Deliver your response with controlled pace and calm energy. Notice whether this encourages openness and reduces resistance. Observing reactions informs adjustment. Empathetic listening is iterative. Pay attention to micro-expressions, posture, and verbal cues after offering input. Adjust your approach if engagement wanes or defensiveness arises. Action. During your next conversation, monitor eye contact, gestures, and tone as you respond. Modify your delivery or phrasing based on these cues to maintain receptivity. Consistency reinforces trust. Repeatedly listening with empathy establishes reliability and positions you as someone whose guidance is valued and credible. Action. Commit to applying empathetic listening consistently in multiple interactions. Track changes in engagement and openness over time. Avoid imposing solutions prematurely. Influence through empathy works best when the speaker feels ownership of the decision. Offering guidance too soon can provoke resistance or disengagement. Action. Prioritize understanding before proposing options. Wait until the speaker has fully shared concerns, fears, and goals. Reflective listening enhances connection. Echoing the speaker's language and framing demonstrates understanding at a deeper level. It subtly communicates alignment, increasing willingness to consider your perspective. Action. Incorporate key phrases or terminology from the speaker's statements into your responses. Observe whether this reinforces engagement and receptivity. Silence as a tool encourages disclosure. Pausing after a key statement invites elaboration, clarification, or additional insight. Silence demonstrates patience and allows the speaker to process emotions and thoughts. Action. Intentionally pause for 3 to 5 seconds after someone finishes speaking. Allow the pause to prompt deeper reflection and sharing. Empathetic listening builds problem-solving partnerships. When people feel understood, they collaborate more willingly. Your role becomes a facilitator rather than a director, guiding decisions through mutual exploration rather than unilateral instruction. Action during discussions involving choices. Frame suggestions as options to explore together, rather than directives. Notice how this encourages cooperation and openness. Subtle mirroring enhances connection. Aligning tone, pace, or posture with the speaker conveys attentiveness and empathy without mimicry. This alignment fosters rapport and positions your guidance as supportive rather than intrusive. Action. Observe a conversational rhythm or gesture and mirror it subtly. Notice how it affects receptivity and engagement. Clarifying assumptions prevents misguidance. Asking questions to ensure you correctly understand the speaker's perspective reduces errors and builds credibility. Misaligned guidance undermines influence, while precision strengthens it. Action. Restate your understanding and invite correction before proposing solutions. This demonstrates diligence and respect. Focusing on solutions rather than blame maintains engagement. People respond defensively when criticized. Empathetic listening allows identification of concerns while shifting the conversation toward constructive options. Action. When addressing challenges, frame statements around possibilities and next steps, avoiding judgment or critique. Acknowledging progress encourages openness. Highlighting steps the speaker has already taken validates effort and reduces defensiveness, making them more receptive to guidance. Action. Identify one achievement or positive action and reference it before offering suggestions for next steps. Emotional intelligence amplifies influence. Understanding when to push, when to pause, and when to inquire deepens the impact of empathetic listening. Recognizing internal states allows tailoring responses to maximize understanding and cooperation. Action. During a tense discussion, assess the speaker's emotional state and adapt tone, phrasing, and pacing to maintain engagement. Feedback loops solidify alignment. Asking questions like, "Does that make sense?" or "How does that feel to you?" ensures the listener processes guidance and confirms mutual understanding. Action. After offering advice, check for comprehension and emotional response, then adjust approach as necessary. Empathetic listening requires self-awareness. Your own biases, assumptions, and emotional reactions must be managed to prevent interference with understanding. Stoic self-regulation ensures presence and objectivity. Action. Monitor internal responses during conversation. Pause to recalibrate before reacting to preserve clarity and empathy. Trust is reinforced when empathy is consistent. Repeatedly demonstrating understanding signals reliability, building credibility and openness over time. Influence becomes natural when people anticipate thoughtful, attentive listening in every interaction. Action. Apply empathetic listening in a series of interactions. Observe how trust and responsiveness evolve. Influence guided by empathy is subtle but powerful. It transforms interactions from directives into collaborative problem-solving. Listening with sincerity, responding with awareness, and validating feelings create fertile ground for decisions aligned with both parties' interests. Action. After each discussion, reflect on moments where empathetic listening shaped outcomes positively. Use these reflections to refine approach continuously. Influence through empathetic listening is not manipulation, it is alignment. It fosters cooperation, trust, and clarity, empowering others to make decisions with confidence. Skillful listening uncovers true priorities, identifies concerns, and builds pathways for meaningful guidance. Practice observation and self-discipline cultivate mastery, turning ordinary conversations into powerful opportunities for impact and connection. The consistent application of empathetic listening nurtures respect, strengthens relationships, and produces decisions guided by insight rather than force, creating influence that is enduring, ethical, and profoundly effective. Number 8. Navigate conflicts without escalating tension. Conflict is an inevitable part of life, whether in personal relationships, workplaces, or social settings. It is not the existence of conflict that determines outcomes, but how it is managed. Navigating conflicts without escalating tension requires discipline, observation, and intentional communication. Escalation occurs when emotional reactions dominate rational thinking, assumptions replace understanding, or words inflame rather than resolve. Remaining calm, aware, and strategic allows conflict to become a tool for clarity, resolution, and stronger relationships, rather than a source of stress and division. The first principle is self-regulation. Emotions flare naturally during disagreements, but reacting impulsively only amplifies tension. Recognizing internal responses, anger, frustration, or defensiveness, and managing them through deliberate breath, mental pause, and composure is essential. Action. During the next conflict, consciously monitor your internal state. Take a slow, deliberate breath before responding to prevent reactive escalation. Active listening is crucial. Hearing the other person fully, without interrupting or preempting, demonstrates respect and reduces defensiveness. It allows for understanding the underlying concerns, rather than focusing solely on surface-level arguments. Action. In a tense conversation, focus entirely on the speaker's words, tone, and body language. Repeat key points to ensure accuracy and demonstrate attentiveness. Language shapes perception. Words can either diffuse tension or fuel it. Avoid accusatory, absolute, or emotionally charged language. Phrases like "you always" or "you never" trigger defensiveness and escalate disputes. Instead, use neutral, factual, and specific language that communicates observations without judgment. Action. Reframe one potentially provocative statement during a conflict to remove blame and maintain clarity. Observe the effect on tone and engagement. Tone and delivery are as important as words. Calm, measured speech conveys control and reduces anxiety, whereas elevated voices, rapid pacing, or sarcasm inflame hostility. Maintaining a steady, composed tone signals that the conversation aims for resolution rather than confrontation. Action. Practice speaking at a moderate pace, with controlled volume, during discussions that might provoke strong emotions. Notice how tone influences the other person's responses. Focus on interests, not positions. People often cling to rigid stances, but true resolution comes from addressing underlying needs and goals, rather than defending a position. Action. Identify the core concern behind your own viewpoint and seek to understand the other party's underlying objectives. Guide the conversation towards solutions that meet mutual needs. Empathy reduces friction, Recognizing and acknowledging the emotions of the other party demonstrates understanding and decreases tension. Validation does not mean agreement. It simply recognizes the legitimacy of their feelings, fostering receptivity to constructive dialogue. Action. During a conflict, state an acknowledgement such as, "I see why this situation feels frustrating for you," before proposing solutions. Timing and pacing influence outcomes. Addressing issues too quickly or forcing resolution before sufficient discussion can exacerbate tension. Conversely, allowing space for reflection, pauses, and measured response creates an environment conducive to calm resolution. Action. When emotions run high, insert intentional pauses. Give each party time to articulate thoughts and reflect before moving toward agreement. Nonverbal cues communicate as much as words. Body language, posture, and facial expressions can either escalate or soothe conflict. Avoid aggressive stances, crossed arms, or pointing gestures. Open, relaxed posture, neutral expressions, and steady eye contact promote calm and receptivity. Action. Observe your own nonverbal communication during tense moments and adjust to signal engagement rather than confrontation. Clarification prevents misinterpretation. Conflicts often escalate because assumptions replace facts. Asking precise, neutral questions uncovers the real issues and ensures understanding. Action. When a statement triggers tension, ask a clarifying question like, "Can you help me understand what you mean by that?" This approach shifts focus from judgment to comprehension. Agreeing on facts first creates a stable foundation. When parties recognize shared understanding before discussing opinions or emotions, escalation decreases. Action. Identify at least one point of agreement at the beginning of a tense discussion. Use it as a reference point for further exploration and compromise. Separate the problem from the person. Attacks on character provoke defensiveness, while addressing the issue objectively fosters cooperation. Focus discussion on actions, events, or decisions, rather than attributing blame. Action. Reframe one statement in a conflict to focus on the issue instead of the individual. Observe whether this reduces tension. Propose solutions, not ultimatums. Providing options encourages collaboration and reduces the perception of threat. Presenting multiple constructive pathways allows the other party to feel agency and participate in resolution. Action. Offer 2 or 3 potential solutions in a tense discussion, emphasizing flexibility and shared choice. Maintain transparency and honesty. Concealing intentions or using deception breeds mistrust, fueling escalation. Clear, truthful communication fosters a sense of integrity and predictability, calming emotions and guiding toward resolution. Action. Before responding, consider whether your statement fully reflects your understanding and intent. Adjust for clarity and honesty. Acknowledge mistakes when necessary. Taking responsibility for errors diffuses defensiveness and models accountability. Action. When you recognize a misstep, state it clearly and without justification. Observe how this gesture encourages reciprocal acknowledgement from the other party. Focus on the present issue. Bringing up past conflicts or unrelated grievances increases tension and distracts from resolution. Action. Redirect conversation to the current topic when historical issues arise. Gently guide the discussion back to immediate concerns to maintain constructive momentum. Controlled breathing and presence influence outcomes. Awareness of your own physiological state helps manage emotional escalation and sets a tone for calm engagement. Action. Practice deep, even breathing during heated exchanges. Observe the calming effect on both yourself and the other party. Use reflective summaries. Periodically summarizing the other person's points reinforces understanding and validates their perspective, decreasing defensiveness. Action. After a key statement, paraphrase it neutrally and ask for confirmation. This creates alignment and demonstrates active engagement. Identify common goals early. Highlighting shared objectives reframes conflict as cooperative problem-solving rather than competition. Action. Explicitly state one mutual goal in a discussion, such as maintaining a productive working relationship or achieving a shared outcome. Use it to anchor dialogue. De-escalation techniques rely on curiosity rather than judgment. Asking why questions to understand reasoning or context shifts the conversation from confrontation to exploration. Action. Pose neutral, exploratory questions like, "What led you to this conclusion?" rather than assigning blame. Limit the use of should statements. Prescriptive language can provoke defensiveness. Action. Replace "you should" with neutral alternatives like "what are your thoughts on" or "would this approach work for you?" This encourages collaboration rather than resistance. Recognize triggers for escalation. Identifying topics, tones or phrases that inflame tension allows preemptive adjustment. Action. Reflect on prior conflicts to pinpoint triggers and consciously avoid or reframe them in future interactions. Practice stoic discipline in response. Detachment from ego-driven reactions enables measured responses. Observing without immediate judgment creates space for strategic, calm engagement. Action. When provoked, focus on facts and intentions rather than personal affronts, responding thoughtfully rather than reflexively. Follow-up ensures sustained resolution. Progressing conflict only in the moment may leave lingering tension. Checking back reinforces commitment to understanding and resolution. Action. After a conflict resolution, revisit the conversation briefly to confirm mutual clarity and continued cooperation. Active collaboration mitigates escalation. Framing solutions as joint efforts, rather than directives, promotes buy-in and reduces defensiveness. Action. Use inclusive language, such as "let's work through this together," to create partnership rather than opposition. Maintain respect throughout. Respectful acknowledgement, even in disagreement, prevents escalation. Avoid sarcasm, ridicule, or dismissive gestures. Action. Consciously monitor language and gestures, ensuring that respect is maintained regardless of disagreement intensity. Emotional containment strengthens navigation. Being the calm presence in a conflict sets a model for the other party, reducing reactive escalation. Action. Maintain steady breathing, controlled posture, and measured tone, even when the other party becomes animated. Record lessons for refinement. Reflecting on conflict resolution strategies and outcomes strengthens future performance. Action. After a conflict, write down which techniques reduced tension and which approaches escalated it. Apply these insights proactively in subsequent interactions. Navigating conflicts without escalating tension transforms disputes into opportunities for understanding, problem-solving, and stronger relationships. Self-regulation, empathetic listening, measured communication, and strategic adjustment turn potentially explosive situations into controlled, constructive dialogue. With disciplined observation, reflection, and ethical application, conflict becomes a tool for growth and clarity rather than stress or division. Mastery of this skill creates environments where disagreements are handled intelligently, calmly, and effectively, producing solutions that are fair, sustainable, and mutually respectful, reinforcing trust and cooperation in every interaction. Number 9. Mirror communication style for rapport. Effective communication is not just about speaking clearly or listening carefully. It is about connection. One of the most powerful ways to build immediate connection and trust is to mirror the communication style of the person you are interacting with. Mirroring is subtle and nuanced. It is the deliberate adaptation of tone, pace, body language, and even word choice to align with the other person. When done skillfully, it fosters rapport, encourages openness, and creates ease of shared understanding without forcing agreement or losing authenticity. The foundation of mirroring is observation. Every individual has a unique rhythm in speech, gestures, and energy. Some people speak slowly, pausing to think between sentences, while others convey ideas rapidly with a high-energy tone. Noticing these differences allows you to adjust your own style in a way that is natural and comfortable. Action. During a conversation, pay attention to the speed of the other person's speech and match it subtly without overdoing it. Observe how this affects the flow and engagement. Tone is a key element. The pitch, volume, and intensity of someone's voice reveal emotional state and preferred communication energy. Matching tone in moderation communicates attentiveness and empathy. A calm, measured tone mirrors someone who is thoughtful, while slightly higher energy can match enthusiasm or urgency. Action. Consciously adjust your tone to reflect the other person's without exaggerating, and notice the shift in comfort and connection. Pacing and rhythm influence receptivity. People are naturally attuned to timing, whether in pauses, emphasis, or transitions. Aligning your timing with theirs creates a conversational harmony that reduces friction and promotes ease. Action. Listen for patterns in pauses and emphasis, and respond with similar pacing. This helps the other person feel heard and understood. Language choice strengthens alignment. Some individuals prefer precise, factual language. Others use narrative, metaphoric, or expressive phrasing. Adopting similar word choice subtly increases resonance and comprehension. Action. Note the style of language used and mirror key aspects in your responses to enhance understanding and rapport. Body language must be considered carefully. Posture, gestures, and facial expressions communicate more than words. Mirroring gestures or maintaining similar posture fosters subconscious alignment. For example, if someone leans slightly forward to show interest, mirroring the lean communicates attentiveness without imitation. Action. Subtly adjust posture and gestures to match the other person, observing the resulting comfort and engagement. Mirroring eye contact is also effective. The intensity and frequency of gaze influence connection. Some people maintain steady eye contact, while others glance away intermittently. Matching these patterns signals attentiveness and emotional attunement. Action. Notice the natural rhythm of the other person's eye contact and align your gaze to enhance comfort and openness. Energy and enthusiasm reflect engagement. People respond more positively when energy levels are aligned. Overly high energy can overwhelm someone who is reserved, while low energy may disengage someone who is animated. Action. Calibrate your energy to match the other person's, creating balance and receptivity in conversation. Verbal mirroring extends beyond word choice. It includes sentence structure, emphasis patterns, and even use of pauses. Subtle replication of these aspects fosters connection without direct imitation. Action. Identify one structural or stylistic pattern in the other person's speech and incorporate a similar element in your response. Notice whether the conversation feels smoother and more collaborative. Listening actively enhances mirroring. The more fully you absorb the other person's style, the more accurately you can align with it. Observing their responses, gestures, and speech patterns informs adjustments in real time. Action. During dialogue, Focus entirely on the other person's communication style. Adjust yours incrementally, noting positive changes in comfort and engagement. Mirroring requires subtlety to avoid mimicry. Obvious imitation is off-putting and can undermine trust. The goal is to create harmony, not parody. Action. Practice small adjustments, such as adopting a similar sentence length, volume, or hand movement, without exaggeration or repetition. Observe reactions for signs of comfort and rapport. Adapting to context strengthens mirroring. Formal meetings, casual conversations, or social gatherings each demand different levels of alignment. Overly informal gestures in a professional setting or excessive formal tone in a relaxed context reduce effectiveness. Action. Evaluate the setting and adjust mirroring intensity to match the environment appropriately. Emotional alignment amplifies connection. People are more receptive when they feel that their emotional state is understood. Mirroring emotional cues, calmness, enthusiasm, concern, validates their experience and encourages openness. Action. Identify one emotion the other person displays and reflect a similar level of engagement or concern in your response. Mirroring builds trust over repeated interactions. Consistently aligning communication style creates predictability and comfort, strengthening relationships over time. Action. In ongoing interactions, monitor opportunities to mirror style while maintaining authenticity. Observe long-term improvements in rapport and collaboration. Flexibility is essential. Not every interaction benefits from full mirroring. Some situations require neutral or adaptive responses. Recognizing when to mirror and when to maintain your natural style ensures balance. Action. Assess the impact of each adjustment on engagement and comfort. Refine approach based on response. Cultural awareness enhances effectiveness. Norms regarding eye contact, gestures, and tone vary across cultures. Sensitivity ensures that mirroring builds connection rather than discomfort. Action. Learn relevant cultural cues and adjust mirroring to respect boundaries and social norms. Feedback informs refinement. Observing how people respond to subtle alignment helps calibrate effectiveness. Positive engagement indicates appropriate mirroring, while tension signals overextension or misalignment. Action. After conversations, reflect on moments of harmony and discomfort. Adjust future interactions accordingly. Mirroring fosters persuasion and collaboration. When people feel understood and aligned with you, they are more receptive to ideas and suggestions. This does not replace ethical communication, but it enhances clarity and influence. Action. In discussions requiring agreement or cooperation, subtly mirror style to increase receptivity while maintaining honesty and integrity. Nonverbal synchronization reinforces verbal alignment. Gestures, facial expressions, and movement patterns that correspond to speech enhance the overall connection. Action. Integrate nonverbal mirroring alongside verbal alignment to create a cohesive and natural rapport. Mirroring tone of humor and playfulness encourages engagement. Shared rhythm in light-hearted conversation builds connection and eases tension. Action. Note the style and level of humor and match it appropriately to foster warmth and relatability. Listening for rhythm in response helps refine timing. Some individuals prefer rapid back-and-forth exchanges, while others favor deliberate pauses. Matching rhythm encourages smoother dialogue. Action. Adjust response timing to match conversational rhythm, enhancing flow and comfort. Mirroring can be applied digitally as well. In written communication, matching sentence length, punctuation style, and formality level builds connection remotely. Action. Adapt email or text style to reflect the recipient's writing tone and pacing for improved engagement. Observation over time sharpens skill. Long-term awareness of individual patterns allows for intuitive alignment in future interactions. Action: keep mental notes on recurring patterns in communication style and apply them in subsequent conversations to strengthen rapport. Mirroring reinforces empathy. Aligning style signals understanding without requiring verbal acknowledgement. People sense harmony subconsciously, which fosters openness and trust. Action: focus on matching subtle cues, such as breathing patterns or gesture tempo, to deepen relational connection. Authenticity remains critical. Mirroring is most effective when it complements your natural behavior rather than replacing it. Over-adaptation appears inauthentic and undermines credibility. Action: maintain your core style while selectively aligning key elements of the other person's communication. Adjusting for group dynamics expands applicability. In teams or social gatherings, mirroring the communication style of multiple participants requires nuanced observation and subtle blending. Action: identify dominant communication styles in a group and align selectively to foster collective rapport without losing authenticity. Reflection consolidates mastery. After interactions, consider which adjustments enhanced connection and which may have overextended alignment. Continuous refinement improves effectiveness. Action: journal key moments of alignment and resulting engagement, using insights to enhance future interactions. Mirroring communication style is a disciplined, strategic, and subtle approach to building rapport. It requires careful observation, empathy, flexibility, and reflection. When executed thoughtfully, it deepens trust, fosters openness, and enhances influence without manipulation. The skill transforms interactions, making them smoother, more collaborative, and naturally aligned. Over time, consistent application allows alignment to become intuitive, creating connections that are genuine, fluid, and mutually reinforcing, strengthening relationships and communication in every context. Number 10. Respond strategically in social situations. Responding strategically in social situations is an essential skill for navigating life effectively, building relationships, and creating opportunities. Social interactions are dynamic and complex, and the way you respond can either open doors, strengthen connections, or unintentionally create friction. Strategic responses are deliberate, thoughtful, and adaptive, shaped by observation, awareness, and emotional intelligence. They require understanding not only what is being said, but also what is implied, how emotions influence behavior, and what outcomes are desirable. Mastering this skill transforms everyday encounters into purposeful exchanges that maximize understanding, influence, and trust. The foundation of strategic responding is active observation. Before responding, take the time to assess the dynamics of the situation. Notice verbal cues, tone of voice, and the emotional undertones of what is being communicated. Body language, posture, and facial expressions provide insight into hidden concerns, openness, or tension. Action: in your next conversation, spend the first moments observing these cues before formulating a response, allowing you to align your reply with the context accurately. Timing is critical in social interactions. Responding too quickly can appear reactive or impulsive, while delayed responses can create miscommunication or frustration. Strategic timing means pausing to process the information, considering the emotional and social implications of your response, and then choosing the most appropriate moment to speak. Action: practice pausing for a brief moment before responding, letting the speaker finish completely and giving yourself space to evaluate the best approach. Clarity ensures that responses are effective. Ambiguous or unclear replies can lead to misunderstandings, assumptions, or conflict. A strategic response communicates your thoughts, intentions, and perspective with precision and simplicity. Avoid overcomplicating explanations or using filler language that distracts from your message. Action. When responding, focus on stating one main point clearly and succinctly, supporting it with examples or evidence only when necessary. Empathy enhances strategic responses. Understanding the emotional state of others allows you to tailor replies in ways that resonate with them, reduce tension, and foster cooperation. Recognizing when someone is frustrated, anxious, or excited helps you choose words, tone, and body language that encourage engagement rather than defensiveness. Action during interactions. Identify one emotional signal in the other person and frame your response in a way that acknowledges and respects that emotion. Anticipating reactions increases effectiveness. Predicting how your response will be received allows for adjustment before speaking. Consider potential interpretations, emotional impact, and alignment with desired outcomes. Action. Mentally rehearse your response, envisioning how the other person might react, and adjust wording, tone, or delivery accordingly. Strategic responses balance assertiveness with respect. Being assertive communicates confidence and clarity, while respect ensures that relationships are maintained and trust is reinforced. Avoid being overly passive, which can lead to misunderstanding, or overly aggressive, which can provoke conflict. Action. Structure your response to convey your perspective firmly while maintaining an inclusive and considerate tone. Questions can guide social exchanges. Thoughtful, open-ended questions not only demonstrate interest, but also shape the direction of the conversation strategically. They encourage elaboration, reveal priorities, and create opportunities for alignment. Action. In your next interaction, pose a question that deepens understanding of the other person's viewpoint, steering the conversation toward meaningful engagement. Adaptation is key. Social situations vary, and strategic responses require flexibility. The same approach may not work with every individual or setting. Observing personality, communication style, and context allows for calibrated responses that enhance receptivity. Action. Adjust tone, pace, and phrasing based on the individual and environment, maintaining authenticity while aligning strategically with the situation. Managing emotional triggers protects strategic thinking. Recognizing what provokes anger, frustration, or defensiveness allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Maintaining composure preserves credibility and ensures that responses remain effective. Action. Identify internal triggers during conversations and implement a brief pause or controlled breathing to maintain calm before replying. Silence can be a strategic tool. Allowing pauses or moments of reflection encourages the other person to elaborate, think critically, or reveal additional information. Silence can communicate confidence, patience, and thoughtfulness, enhancing the impact of your subsequent response. Action. Use strategic pauses to allow the conversation to unfold naturally and to create space for more informed and intentional replies. Aligning responses with shared goals fosters cooperation. Identifying common interests or mutual objectives enables replies that build consensus and strengthen relationships. When responses reflect alignment, the conversation becomes constructive rather than adversarial. Action. Frame responses to highlight areas of agreement or mutual benefit before addressing differences or suggestions. Nonverbal elements reinforce strategic communication. Tone, gestures, posture, and facial expressions must complement verbal messages. Discrepancies between verbal and nonverbal cues reduce clarity and trust. Action. Ensure that body language matches the intended message. Steady posture, calm gestures, and consistent eye contact enhance credibility. Listening strategically informs responses. Effective communication is not just about speaking well, but understanding fully. Paying attention to nuances, context, and emotional subtext ensures that responses are appropriate and impactful. Action. Before formulating a response, summarize internally the key points and implied concerns expressed by the other person. This internal review allows for accuracy and relevance. Framing statements shapes perception. The way information is presented can reduce resistance and increase engagement. Positive framing, highlighting opportunities and solutions rather than limitations, encourages collaboration and receptivity. Action. When addressing sensitive topics, frame your response to emphasize constructive outcomes and shared benefits. Consistency enhances credibility. Responses that are aligned with prior statements, behavior, and values reinforce trust. Inconsistent replies create confusion, suspicion, or disengagement. Action. Ensure that responses are coherent with your established principles and prior communications to strengthen reliability and influence. Feedback loops improve interaction. Observing how the other person responds allows adjustment in real time. Mirroring subtle cues, recalibrating tone, or clarifying points maintains alignment and effectiveness. Action. Monitor reactions immediately following your response and adapt as necessary to ensure clarity, understanding, and positive engagement. Anticipate miscommunication and clarify proactively. Misunderstandings are common in social interactions, and preemptive clarification prevents escalation or confusion. Action. After giving a response, check for understanding by asking neutral clarifying questions, such as, "Does that make sense?" or "How do you feel about this approach?" Ethical consideration guides strategy. Effective responses should build trust, understanding, and collaboration, not manipulate or deceive. Integrity ensures that social influence is constructive and sustainable. Action. Evaluate the intent behind each response to ensure it aligns with ethical standards and mutual respect. Balancing information sharing is crucial. Overloading or withholding information can diminish effectiveness. Strategic responses deliver the right amount of detail at the right time to inform, guide, or persuade without overwhelming or confusing. Action. Tailor the level of information to the context, audience, and objectives of the conversation. Conflict management within responses strengthens outcomes. In tense situations, strategic responses de-escalate emotions, redirect focus, and maintain engagement. Choosing calm, neutral, and solution-oriented language prevents tension from escalating. Action. In disagreements, respond with statements that acknowledge concerns, propose constructive alternatives, and maintain composure. Cultural and contextual sensitivity ensures relevance. Social norms, expectations, and values differ across environments. Understanding these factors allows responses that are respectful, appropriate, and effective. Action adapt language, tone, and approach to fit the cultural or situational context, enhancing acceptance and rapport. Strategic responses leverage timing of reinforcement. Recognizing when to affirm, support, or encourage strengthens relationships and guides behavior positively. Action. Offer validation or acknowledgement when appropriate to reinforce desired outcomes or strengthen collaboration. Anticipating challenges improves adaptability. Considering potential objections, concerns, or misunderstandings in advance allows for prepared, thoughtful responses that maintain control and minimize friction. Action. Before entering discussions, Identify likely challenges and plan measured responses to address them without conflict. Building rapport enhances receptivity. Strategic responses are more effective when relationships are grounded in trust, respect, and mutual understanding. Establishing this foundation amplifies influence and facilitates constructive exchanges. Action. Invest in rapport-building practices such as active listening, acknowledgement, and respectful engagement before employing strategic responses. Prioritize clarity over persuasion. Strategic responding is not about winning arguments, but guiding interactions toward constructive outcomes. Clear, concise, and reasoned responses foster understanding and cooperation. Action. Focus on delivering responses that are easily understood, logical, and aligned with mutual objectives. Observation and reflection cultivate mastery. Reviewing interactions allows identification of which responses were effective, which missed the mark, and how future interactions can be improved. Action. After social engagements, reflect on key moments where responses influenced outcomes positively or negatively, and use these insights to refine your approach. Responding strategically in social situations transforms ordinary conversations into deliberate, purposeful, and productive interactions. It combines observation, empathy, timing, clarity, and adaptability to achieve understanding, strengthen relationships, and influence outcomes ethically. Through disciplined practice, reflection, and conscious adjustment, responses become tools for navigating social dynamics with intelligence, confidence, and effectiveness, turning every exchange into an opportunity for meaningful connection, mutual respect, and thoughtful impact.